from the Yahoo Finance. People are hoarding. Food shortages or the next supply chain crunch. Jeremiah 42, verse 22. Now therefore know certainly that ye shall die by the sword, by the famine, and by the pestilence, in a place whither ye desire to go and to sojourn. Ezekiel chapter 7, verse 25. Destruction cometh, and they shall seek peace, and there shall be none. Mischief shall come upon mischief, and rumor shall be upon rumor. Then shall they seek a vision of the prophet, but the law shall perish from the priest, and counsel from the ancients. Ezekiel chapter 5, verse 16. When I shall send upon them the evil arrows of famine, which shall be for their destruction, and which I will send to destroy you. And I will increase the famine upon you, and will break your staff of bread. So will I send upon you famine and evil beast, and they shall berate thee, and pestilence and blood shall pass through thee. And I will bring the sword upon thee. I, the Lord Yahweh, have spoken it. Shalom. All blessings, honors, and glories be unto Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem, Racha Kodash. Double honors to my apostles and elders of Great Millstone who have taught me this truth, as well as men of like mind that are scattered here in America, which is Babylon the Great, and abroad. To you I say Shalom, and Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai Ratizah. This lesson is edifying. Again, this is from the Yahoo Finance. People are hoarding. Food shortages are the next supply chain crunch. In Denver, public school children are facing shortages of milk. In Chicago, a local market is running short of canned goods and boxed items. But there's plenty of food. There just isn't always enough processing and transportation capacity to meet rising demand as the economy revs up. Now, food typically only lasts about 2 to 3 days until they have to be restocked in a store on its shelves. More than a year and a half after the coronavirus pandemic upended daily life, the supply of basic goods at U.S. grocery stores and restaurants is once again falling victim to intermittent shortages and delay. I never imagined that we'd be here in October 2021 talking about supply chain problems. But it's a reality, said Vivek Sankaran, Chief Executive Officer of Albertsons Costs, who echoed the laments of other retailers. Any given day, you're going to have something missing in our stores, and it's across category. Whack-a-mole. In Denver, broken parts of the milk supplier's plant affected shipments of half-pint cartons, on top of disruptions at one time or another in cereal, tortillas, and juice. We've been struggling with supply chain issues with different items since school started, said Teresa Hafner, the executive director of food services at Denver Public Schools. It just continues to pop up. It's like playing whack-a-mole. In Chicago, Dill Pickle Food Co-op ran out of certain dry goods because its two main distributors haven't been sending orders in full in certain weeks. Early in the pandemic, panic buying was the cause of many of the out-of-stock situations that groceries experienced. General Manager Itali McCarthy said in an email to store owners this month, although the food industry was able to somewhat rebound, the sustained nature of the pandemic, combined with the slow pace of jabination globally and the recent surge caused by the Delta variant, have resurfaced the problem. I noticed they put that people not receiving that jab in there, because what they're basically doing is that they're gradually shifting the blame of the global supply chain disruptions and shortages upon the unjabinated. This is a great example of what is known as gradualism, which is the idea of achieving a desired mean through gradual stages. Esau Edom has always known to do this. He's always been known for doing this. It says the shortages aren't as acute as they were earlier in the pandemic. At supermarkets, on the shelf availability has stabilized since dropping drastically in November last year, according to data from Nielsen IQ. I'm sorry if you've been seeing the prices of goods go up and their quantity and volume go down. This is known as shrinkflation. Still, one key metric is trending down a bit. The total on-shelf availability rate was 94.6% in September, a decrease from 95.2% in August. That means that 94.6% of expected revenue was generated last month, Nielsen IQ said. Price pressure. Many food suppliers are planning for these hiccups and shortages to last. Stafford Road, or Road, a producer of frozen and shelf-stable meals, is holding extra inventory, keeping about 4 months of supply on hand instead of typically 1 or 2 months. People are hoarding, said CEO and founder Adnan Durrani. What I think you'll see over the next 6 months, all prices will go higher. Shrinkflation and inflation. A&W restaurants earlier this year had to cancel a marketing deal for chicken tenders when its supplier couldn't get extra stock of poultry. And not only that, but Edom has been paying farmers to euthanize their livestock. So check that out. Instead, the chain, which has about 560 locations domestically, went with chili cheese fries. Rather than run short, we replaced the promotion with something we could get, said CEO Kevin Basner. Supplies, are improving, he said, but the chain is still only getting about 80% of what it orders, he said. Not enough styrofoam. And they basically continue on the different lackings and wantings of goods, but this seems to be the last portion of this article, so I'll read it just for edification's sake. Food producers complain of supply chain headaches of their own. Llano Lake Inc., one of the biggest U.S. farm cooperatives, said its members are producing abundant amounts of milk at their dairies. The challenges in the supply chain continue to be issues such as driver shortages, labor, and congestion at the ports, Chief Supply Chain Officer Yonk Dewberry said in an email. Meat processors tell a similar tale. Earlier this month, one pork supplier couldn't get products out because there weren't enough styrofoam trays, said Steve Meyer, a consulting economist for the National Pork Producers Council. Labor issues are also roiling the meat supply. Plants are running, but not at full capacity due to a lack of workers and truckers, Meyer said. The problem is so bad that at least one U.S. meat packer has tried to lure new employees with Apple Watches. Oh man, in most cases, animals are being harvested, but there aren't enough people to handle normal value-added processes such as boning, trimming, and curing. That may make it harder for grocery stores customers to find such high-value products as boneless hams, said Myers. You name it is going wrong somewhere. This concludes the article, which I will leave, Lord's willing, on the description box of this lesson. Now let's go back to the scriptures and conclude the lesson, Lord's willing. Ezekiel chapter 5, verse 16. When I shall send upon them, who's is them referring to? 2/3 of the nation of Israel. The evil arrows of famine. Evil means bad times. Eve means time, and ill means bad. The bad times of famine. And that's what the Lord is going to send upon 2/3 of the nation of Israel. He's going to break their staff of bread. Okay? They're not going to be able to get any food to eat, no water to drink, but instead they'll be eating them own selves. They'll be eating their own kids, their own sons and daughters, their own families, their own husbands, their own wives. Upon them the evil arrows of famine, which shall be for their destruction, and which I will send to destroy you, and I will increase the famine upon you, and will break your staff of bread. The Lord's gonna completely cause this place to shut right back down. There will be no work for Egypt. Whatever little bit work that they have available now will be completely exhausted, because they will destroy, as they will continue to destroy, these smaller businesses. Because Esau-Edom is in the process of transitioning and then introducing the world to his neural order, which is to ultimately cause all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hands or in their foreheads. And right now they're using this pandemic as a vehicle through different tactics, especially one known as gradualism, to further carry out their agenda, and at the same time vilify the unjabinated, so that the world can blame them for all its current mishaps and disruptions, such as the global supply chain disruption. And this will then ultimately transition to when they mandate that mark, that chip. Okay, because all roads are leading to the introducing and the mandating of the MOTB, okay, the RFID microchip. And I will send to destroy you, which I will send to destroy you, excuse me, and I will increase the famine upon you, and will break your staff of bread. So will I send upon you famine and evil beast, and they shall berave thee, and pestilence and blood shall pass through thee, and I will bring the sword upon thee. I, the Lord Jehovah, have spoken it. And what is a sword? The modern day gun. And that has been given as a blessing unto the sword. And who's the sword? According to Psalm chapter 17, verse 13, the wicked. Who is the wicked? Malachi chapter 1, verse 4 tells us that the wicked is Esau, Edom, the so-called Caucasian race. And so the Lord will send the sword upon 2/3 of the nation of Israel during the time of famine, when the Lord is going to break their staff of bread. That's why the Lord said here in St. Matthew's chapter 24, verse 12, that because iniquity shall abound, and because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold, because men will only be looking out for themselves and their own families. Men will be killing each other for the lack of bread, for food. 2nd Ezra chapter 15, verse 16, for there shall be sedition, there will be uproar, there will be incitements to uproar against lawful authority among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes. They won't regard their president, their government, their governors, their mayors, their local law enforcement, military. They won't regard any of these things when shit hits the fan. Okay, nor princes and the counsel of their actions shall stand in their power. A man shall desire to go into a city, and shall not be able. For because of their pride the city shall be troubled, and the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. And this is the point. A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword, the gun, rocket launcher, grenades, and what? And spoil their goods, take all their goods, all their victuals, food and drink, because of the lack of bread, and for great tribulation. Because of what? Famine, which is the lack of bread, and for great tribulation. And so all these things are coming upon the world, man. Okay? Upon 2/3 of the nation of Israel. So with that, I pray this lesson is edifying to the elect. Until the next Lord's willing, I say shalom to the elect.